Welcome back to the podcast. We're here with Steve Maly from Maly Marketing.com. And Steve is all about strategy and media buying. So we're going to be talking today about how traditional marketing works and the number one key to all marketing, your marketing budget, KPIs, and so many more things. So Steve, glad to be talking to you.
Awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. And so just jumping right in, what's your current passion and focus? Like in the last 6 to 9 months, what has you fired up, excited to get out of bed in the morning?
Yeah, dude, it's been super interesting. So we've been in business 19 and a half years at this point in time. And so when we first got into it, a ton of it was traditional marketing because the online components just didn't exist, social media and all that type of stuff. And then you went deep into the other side where it's almost 100% online. It's been cool over the last 9 to 12 months to be able to see that balance kind of come back between the traditional and the non-traditional, the digital side of things, especially how much cheaper traditional is for people and the impact that it really makes. So most of the conversations that we have with some clients at times like, hey, we got this budget. We've been spending this whole entire budget on Meta ads, Google ads, TikTok, whatever it might have been at the moment. And I kind of convincing them and showing them, hey, if you take that exact same budget, you make different splits with it, you can actually get a lot better results. So those conversations are the ones that I absolutely love. And you kind of teased it at the beginning of this podcast as well.
Exciting. And why has this happened? Like, why did it seem to go so far in the one direction and come back? What's going on?
Part of it, and this is even going back 3 or 4 years, is the way the Meta was set up initially, is you can be a pretty bad marketer, but still get some pretty good results through it because costs are so cheap back then. But they were also not a profitable company. And so as they've had to become a lot more profitable with it, their costs have been rising really ever since. To the extent at times that Meta ads could be 6 to 7 times more expensive than traditional TV ads, for example. It's just most people haven't seen it. It's kind of like the boiling frog. You throw a frog in a boiling pot of water, you can slowly churn it up, and then the frog never notices and it perishes. It's what's been like on the meta verse, if you will, in the universe there. It's just the rising cost. Most people haven't noticed it because they still have that mindset. Oh, it's cheap. It's online. It's cheap. And it's just not really true any longer.
And, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, the whole appeal of Facebook ads was that people said, well, Google ads are so expensive. They said at first Google ads were cheap and you could just get away with running a quick ad, but then it became more competitive and they just found ways to slowly increase those costs. And then people said, well, Google ads are expensive. Now let's go to Facebook ads, Meta ads. And then so now seems like been more established. And then it's time to look in other areas. And so what does that look like? Like you said, sometimes you come with a plan and you say, instead of all in on Meta ads, it's kind of sectioned out. So do you have a fun story or case study to share with us about how maybe you had this kind of multi-pronged strategy?
Yeah, so it's always kind of interesting because generally speaking, when we're working with clients, you always try to get quick wins as you build out an entire campaign. A lot of times those quick wins could start online. So we might be running online ads for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. But then we know a specific date when TV starts running or billboards start running or radio starts running or a combo of those things. So we could take a look at those previous 30 days compared to the next 30 days. So one of our favorite ones that we did, and this is a little bit over a year ago, we were running this campaign. It's a tourism client of ours. So we're trying to get people to go visit this community. And so we put up billboards in a feeder community that sends a bunch of tourists there, as well as some guerrilla marketing campaigns. So we put up the campaign name is Call for a Good Time. The things you see on bathroom walls or whatever. And we have flyers around town. You can do a pull tab and call for a good time. Well, we're running those online campaigns for about 30 days prior to it. The moment that we put up those billboards, and we didn't change anything online, budget's the same, optimization is the same, targeting is the same, everything's the same. Well, now that they're starting to see this brand in the real world, the clicks on those digital ads went up 92%. Cost to get a lead dropped by almost 40%. And we really see it time and time again, because you have that credibility aspect of like, holy cow, these people have billboard money or TV money or fill in the blank traditional side of it. Like they must be fully legit, and be able to see them both credibility wise in the physical world, as well as kind of the digital world. It just helps influence everything else that's taking place online. So that's why I love pulling together some of these case studies, because there's no guarantees in marketing, period. But out of the case studies we pulled together, we haven't noticed a drop off by introducing new channels, especially new traditional channels on top of what you're already doing online.
That's amazing. And especially when you are, in this instance, targeting a geographic area and you can kind of do all these, a few different platforms. And then one person in this area will be seeing it in all sorts of places, right? They see the TV
Yep.
ads, they see the guerrilla marketing. And I'm still amazed when my wife will be looking at Facebook or Meta on her phone or Google search results, and she won't even notice what the sponsored posts are. And people like you and me will see the little sponsored link, but it seems like just that the average person, like they don't even notice that. And then she also is like very much easily amazed when the retargeting ads follow her around. And again, guys like you and me know there's a pixel, there's a cookie on the landing page, and then everywhere you go, the ads are there. But it's just, it's a good reminder of the fundamentals that you can do these things to easily follow someone around. And so my limited understanding of some of these media buys is also that the TV ads and the billboards are much more accessible than they were before, because sometimes you see like in like YouTube ads, you can buy TV time, and then there's so many billboards now, they look real, but they're just like a huge screen, and you can just buy these time slots. And so am I on the right track with that? That, you know, when you say TV ads and billboard ads, sometimes people discount that because they think, oh, I need like 10 or 20,000 bucks just to start, just to get it put up. But you and me say it's digital. You can just buy the time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We have some local clients that will spend $1,000 a month on TV ads, and they're able to get the results that they want to get. So a lot of times we do hear that. And I'll speak at conferences and I'll ask them like, hey, how much do you think a billboard costs? And most common answer is between $5,000 to $10,000. And then I pull up a billboard from that community. I'm like, this one is $800. This one's $1,200. You know, this one's $1,100. It really just kind of blows their minds. They think it's going to be so much more expensive, and it's not. And part of it is just inventory. You know, there is quite a bit more inventory now on both, you know, billboards or TV or whatever it may be. So it gives us an opportunity to kind of buy into that. But it's also just how the digital landscape has changed. People are still consuming traditional media, but it's a little bit of a different way. And so they know they have to compete against the digital aspects of things as well. And so they've been lowering CPM costs, costing them to reach 1,000 impressions, really by quite a bit to help combat that.
So it seems like a lot of your strategy here is just like we mentioned in your bio a little bit of looking at the KPIs, and you mentioned things like cost per lead acquisition. And so you're just like kind of looking at what things cost, and you try some experiments and you say, well, as long as I'm making money, as long as it's working, it doesn't matter if maybe the budget is low or the bid amount is scary. And so these are some fun insights and surprises that you're sharing with us about how you're just like, hey, guess what? This one billboard costs only $800. And so is there anything in your digital marketing and your media buying travels that you think is not talked about enough? Is there anything that just you've been like surprised or just amazed by that is just not getting enough attention?
Actually, one thing that pops up a lot when I'm speaking at conferences is direct mail, surprisingly. Because a lot of times people think direct mail is dead. And the way that a lot of companies do it, it is kind of dying. It's the same crap time and time again. It's a postcard. It's a white envelope that comes across. But we've had a ton of success on the direct mail side of it, especially in the B2B space, where we know we can spend a little bit more per piece because the lifetime value is going to be that much higher in the B2B space. And if you do it right, and we had one direct mail campaign that went out, is the conversion rate to get them into a meeting was 32%. Which is freaking crazy. But
right.
Again,
three letters, one meeting, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so there's things that people are always surprised about because they're like, oh no, I don't want anything physical anymore. Everything's digital. Well, then everything goes digital. You become so immune to it, just like you were talking about with your wife. You just start to ignore this stuff. So you go the opposite of where people are going, and you can stick out a lot easier.
And that's a great reminder. And I love doing direct mail. Every now and then, probably every year or two, when I say, well, I want to get a few more clients, I'll just send some things in the mail. And it seems like if I only did the direct mail, I definitely don't see very much in the way of results. But when I do the direct mail plus a phone call plus an email blast plus find them on social media and all these different things, then it seems like it works. And it kind of relates to what we were saying before in a couple of conversation hops ago, where we said, well, if you're running ads in all these different ways, and someone just keeps seeing you in different kind of modalities, then it's really hard for them to ignore you. And so there's just a lot to think about so far in our conversation. And so what do you think is ahead for you? And what do you think is like coming for the future as far as media buys and all these things?
Yeah, it's interesting because again, we've been in it for almost 20 years, and the more things change, the more they stay the same. You have a bunch of eyeballs might be jumping into a TikTok or Threads or whatever it may be. Well, you still have a huge core of audience just in Facebook itself and Instagram itself. And the more that things kind of shift into that digital world, again, the more opportunities we see on the traditional side of things. Like going back to what we were just kind of talking about, and this, the whole goal in marketing is like, I see you everywhere. Always the top of mind awareness with it. And you can take a list, you can purchase a list, let's just call it 10,000 names for argument's sake. You can upload that. You can send ads to them through Meta, through email blasts as well. You can upload that same list to a TV provider. Anybody that matches up into that list, now they can start seeing TV commercials on that day. And let's just say on Thursday, you drop a direct mail piece. So now potentially on Thursday, that same user will get direct mail, see it on TV and see it in the digital space to make it feel like, oh my God, these people have all kinds of cash. I see them everywhere. No, we're just targeting 10,000 people. We both know 10,000 people doesn't cost that much money, relatively speaking, to kind of target. It's just been a lot more strategic, a lot more kind of narrow over the top of it with one's budget.
I love that, especially when you are doing that narrow target in a short time period, then you can afford to just do all that blast all at once, and then you still have that effectiveness, you still have that surprise. And you always hear about how we see like 10,000 ads per day, but we see the same ones and we don't even notice it. But if suddenly things are different, then we can have a better effect than if those same ads are running over a super long period of time, because it's something new and different and gets their attention. And so I'm just loving some of these stories that you're telling, and just kind of the master world domination plans of like running all these ads and doing all these sorts of things. And so what have your challenges and struggles been like? Like when you work on these projects, is there any kind of situation where you've been like stuck, frustrated, not sure what to do? Anything come to mind there?
Part of it kind of reminds me to a certain extent, how do you track marketing? That's always the question that you get all the time. How do you prove this out? Meta will show you some data. Google will show you some data. The traditional side of it's going to be a little bit different because again, it's traditional. It's not I can't click on a billboard to see that full path. And it kind of comes to the other side of it we talk about a lot is every time you introduce a new channel into your marketing, you generally see about a 30% bump on the previous channel that you had running. So if you add, print plus digital plus TV, it's not 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. It literally is 1 times 1.3. Add that up plus, the next 1.3, and it gets closer to 4. And because of that, you don't have that granularity. What is this one ad this person saw that came in to make a buy or become a lead or whatever it is? Marketing doesn't happen in a silo. Our decision-making process doesn't happen in a silo. So a lot of times when clients want to be able to get very, very granular into that one thing that made somebody move, you just can't do it. There's all these companies that promise you, I'll show you this data, I'll show you exactly how this works. And we had one client last year spent $89,000 in a reporting system to try to close that gap. At the end of the day, they basically ended up with Google Analytics with another bell or whistle over the top. And so sometimes that's kind of closed, but that's the challenge, to be able to kind of explain, because people in their minds have been told time and time, oh yeah, you can prove this stuff out. You can prove this stuff out. And with human nature, good luck. We worked with Wicked Reports, who were at that point in time, they tracked about $5 billion in overall ad spend. And I asked him like some of his biggest surprises. He's like, even at that component, we can't match up all this data. We can kind of paint a picture and kind of show a general direction, but we can't pull all this stuff together. And this is a guy that tracked $5 billion in ad spend, let alone a client might be spending $500 in ad spend or $5,000 in ad spend.
That's interesting to think about. That it would be nice if you trimmed all the ads down to 0% waste and literally everything you ran made money. But there's like those intangible, there's some of these ads warm them up, or some of these touch points kind of got them paying more attention. And then this last ad is what got them to buy, or this last marketing action. And so that's just interesting to think about, how there's all these things in play, and you're always experimenting and split testing and changing. And it's tempting to like remove all these pieces, but you don't know if those pieces were what painted the complete picture. And so how does someone kind of tap into this analytical mindset that you have? Because for some reason, I'm always blocked whenever it comes time to think about this sort of stuff, to think about like my funnel or my conversion or my numbers. Sometimes I just think like, man, it's hard to get myself excited about the numbers and hard to like recurringly revisit. And it seems like these guys like you that are like really good with the advertising, it's just what you eat for breakfast. And you're just always looking at the numbers like multiple times a day. So how do we tap into this sort of numbers energy that you have?
Yeah, so a couple things. We set up Google Data Studio, which I guess is Looker Studio at this point in time, to be able to pull in numbers in real time. So we have an idea of where thresholds are at, baselines are at, and always kind of see that. The other component is we always offer initially kind of a free 30-minute audit over anything that you got. I don't care if it's online, if it's offline, because again, we see numbers all the damn time. I could tell you really quick, like that's good, double down there. Or hey, this actually happened about a year ago, is hey, this display ad is getting me clicks for $15. That's good, right? Like, no, that is horrible. But again, we can tell this stuff super, super quick because we'd always find it, or we always deal with it on a daily basis. So like I said, we're more than happy to kind of do a free audit over the top of it. And then for people to kind of build out on their own, Google Data Studio is a pretty good free tool to pull in different sources. So you always have an idea where your numbers are at collectively.
Fantastic. It reminds me of in the Matrix when all the numbers are raining down the screen and the guy says, you just see code, but I see blonde, brunette, redhead. And so it's like you can see the data and get excited about it. And I think so you're saying Google Data Studio, and it also just seems like the kind of the solution here. If some company out there says, we know we need to be more dialed in on the metrics, on the numbers, on the KPIs, it seems like the answer is just to involve people that are excited, and then that way that's their job, and then also the enthusiasm kind of rubs off. And so you're saying the logical step forward for some company, if they know they need to pursue these media buys and get the ads in place or better dialed in, or if they're wasting on $15 a click display ads or on meta ads, then it seems like the logical next step is to contact you and your company and your team and do this meeting, do this audit. That way you can show them what's possible. And how would someone do that? What's the call to action? What's the next step?
Yeah, the best part is go directly just to our website, malymarketing.com. Like you mentioned, MALY marketing.com. On there, you'll actually see a couple of free guides as well that we're getting published. With those free guides, we'll take a look through lifetime value, kind of give you a better idea of marketing budget and where this really should kind of live. And that'd be a good place to start, is take a look at those guides and then reach out to us. And like I said, one of us will jump into an audit for you. And like, the way that I always look with audits, it's no judgment. I don't know what your initial strategy was, your initial budget was, what the directions were from top down was. We'll just kind of give you our inside look under the hood and be very honest in regards to that is awesome, roll with it, or that's a little rough. We got to consider something a little bit different.
Fabulous. Maly Marketing, MALY marketing.com. And that's an interesting kind of just way to feel better that you mentioned there, is that there's that kind of hesitancy. Say if your financial situation was a mess, you're hesitant to see the financial advisor because you're just afraid of what they'll see. Or like if you're out of shape or you have bad teeth and you're afraid to go to the dentist, it's like, but that's the only way you're going to get help. And these people are professionals, that they've seen it, they're excited to help you, they want to help you. So that just seems like an interesting mind block to overcome. If some business says, the metrics have been a mess for years, we don't know what's profitable, what's a mess, what to work on. Well, it's time to get over that hump and to take the first step and to get the right people involved at Maly Marketing at MALYMARKETING.com. And as we wrap up our conversation here, Steve, I always like to wrap up these kind of conversations and get a little retrospective and ask, if you could think back to 20 years ago, is there advice that you wish you'd gotten 20 years ago that would have been really helpful on your journey?
Yeah, it's interesting because I had a student that came in here yesterday and kind of asked me the same thing. And I guess a couple things. One is just really get to know the finances of a company, period, like intimately inside and outside. So you have a better idea of what lever to pull in order to make kind of better decisions with it. Two is continue to always expand your network. The reason why we've been able to grow over the years is we do have a pretty good network here at this point in time, but it took me a while to kind of learn through trial and error. We used to have speakers come in at the university and they would always talk about it's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's like, yeah, whatever, old guy, sure sounds great. But in reality, it's so much business truly is that being in the right room at the right time. And sometimes that right room costs some money, but it's worth getting into that room and making that type of investment to connect with kind of higher level people.
An excellent reminder to always be networking. And that's what you and I are doing right now, right? And it's a two-way street. I'm networking with you. You're networking with me. We're on a podcast. And it's really tempting to be just stuck in the day-to-day and to be stuck in scarcity mode and just dealing with the clients you have, dealing with the problems you have. And it can be tempting to say, oh, I don't need to do that speaking gig or that networking event. Or it's easy for someone to say, oh, I don't need to run those ads. We're fine with our company at the size we are. But it's so important to just do those extra things so that way you're growing and not dying and sustaining yourself. And most importantly, it seems like a theme of a lot of what we're talking about here, aside from measuring, is just getting the right people in your orbit. And so the very next step to get the right people in your orbit is to add Steve Maly on LinkedIn, last name Maly. But most importantly, go to malymarketing.com. That's Maly marketing.com. And thank you very much, Steve, for stopping by and for giving us some really important foundational lessons and some insights, some reminders, some really great stuff. I was very impressed. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely appreciate it as well. It's always fun having these type of conversations.